Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsonelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I have an amazing guest here with me, Miss Kitti Andrews, and I'm so excited to have you as part of the podcast today. So do us all a favor as we get started. Tell us who you are, what it is that you do, and what got you into this space.
Thank you for having me, Kat. I'm honored. Who am I? I am Kitti Andrews with declutterthebrain.com. And my official tagline is that I help C-suite executives and six-figure entrepreneurs to organize their space and streamline their thoughts so that they can focus on being profitably productive. But what does that mean in real life? There's a lot of fancy words there, right? I help anyone. Those are my target, but I help those who want to declutter their space and their brain so that at the end of the day they can say, I got the right things done. Because you know how we can sometimes get bogged down in the rabbit hole of busy work.
Oh, yeah.
Just because we don't really want to make that phone call or send that email. So we'll find any excuse to not do that, right? And that's where the busy work comes in. But if you buckle down and you get the right things done through a system of routine and schedule, and of course, decluttering all 5 pillars of your life, which is what I help people do, then you do end up being profitably productive, but profit doesn't have to be about money. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, totally agree. Totally agree. Same thing when you ask about the definition of success, that everybody should have their own definition that resonates with them specifically, because then you're achieving your own goals and not somebody else's goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love that so much. So tell us then, how on earth did you get into this space?
And that was the part that I neglected, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes being a good little ADHD, or sometimes you have to kind of bring me back into the
just
fold.
reel it in.
Well, we've all seen those pictures of the children with the building blocks, carefully stacking. They're usually little boys, and it's usually on an article about autism. And 1 in 44 boys are diagnosed, at least officially diagnosed, and 1 in 189 girls are officially diagnosed, and then God knows how many of us are wandering around. And yes, I said the word us because I have way too many hallmarks of it to not be at least somewhat affected. And it can, I did demonstrate this as a kid. one symptom being a definite need for order and structure. And kids, no matter what, they need structure because that part of their brain is not developed. Well, I may have taken it to extreme. I don't know, but in my adult life, which is where it becomes more important, it turns into a couple of funny stories, which I hope I can quickly share. The first one was one of my first jobs I was a file clerk, and I was promoted to accounting. And a couple months later, the lady where I was filing, she said, "Would you consider coming back and working for us part-time? Because we can't find anything anymore. You were the best we ever had." And I'm thinking, okay, it's pretty simple. A, B, C, D, E, whatever. All right. And then fast forward into a long restaurant career. And I was always the one who was voted to go and clean the walk-in fridge. Nobody wanted to do that. But I tell you what, at the end of the shift, all those chefs, cooks, all they want to do is go for a beer. So they just throw everything in there willy-nilly, willy and nilly, and you can't find the yogurt. So I loved that job because I could be kind of quiet in my own space, away from the noise of the restaurant, and I would get to put everything where it was. Then fast forward into I had an 18-year real estate cleaning career, and cleaning to facilitate real estate sales. And I always found myself compelled. It was borderline staging. Just move things around a little bit so that they would look more orderly.
Yeah.
That automatically turned into virtual decluttering. I don't go into people's homes. Virtual decluttering has been described by a realtor friend of mine as a less intrusive, more focused way to get rid of 30 years worth of inserted stuff. Because you don't have to clean for the cleaning lady. You can just focus on the one room. And I hope we can talk a little bit more about the importance of focus. So that, in a kind of a big nutshell, is what I'm about.
And I love that. And I know we've talked about this, before you were on the episode as well, of the importance of decluttering your space and decluttering your mind, and how sometimes you have to declutter physical spots in order for the mind to feel less cluttered as well. It's not just about trying to declutter the brain, because if you live in a world of chaos, or your home is chaotic, or you don't have a space where you work that's clean, it is amazing how it makes a difference on how your brain operates.
Oh yeah. And I can speak into that. It didn't happen this week, and I don't know why, but generally by Wednesday evening, usually it's my kitchen counter, that things start to pile up a little bit on it. And I don't know why it didn't happen this week. And I do know why, because it's piling up in the office.
Oh no.
All right. It's been a busy week. So Wednesday night, we'll stick with the kitchen counter. I will clear it off. I'll give it a really good wipe. And Thursday and Friday, I sail through it. I feel much more energetic. And it's a bit of a woo-woo thing. And some people could say, no, it's not going to make that much of a difference to your energy. But I think it does. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's so funny that you say that, and I know we kind of talked about this previously, but when my husband was transitioning jobs recently, a couple months ago, we had planned on taking a trip to get out of the house. That's what we wanted to do. And one of the things that was transitioning in his job was he was going to be working more at home full time. And so in that process, I told him, I said, you know what, instead of us like leaving and taking a vacation, why don't we like hyper focus on the house for the next few days, which, is my specialty. I love cleaning things. I love making things look good. But so bless his heart, he was like, okay, fine. So we literally did exactly what you're saying. We started room by room. We went through things, we reorganized, we got rid of things we know that we don't use. We took tons of stuff off and donated. But by the fourth day, while we were exhausted, it felt so much better. My office space was set up. His new office space was set up. My son had been moved into a different room. Our living room looked more open. And there is this sense of calm that kind of rushes over you. And it does allow the brain to quiet down because you don't constantly have that, oh, but I should do this, oh, but I could do that, that's still sitting over there, this needs to be done, kind of a thing. So I am an advocate for that 100%, which is why I love what you do so much, because it is so true. And I mean, when I did my office, I actually bought a smaller desk. So I used to have one in the L-shaped desk, and what I found was I would put stuff on that L that I didn't actually use, and it was for me to look at later. So I actually got a smaller desk so that I did not have space to clutter it up. And that way I could be more productive and I could go through my things and actually get rid of stuff without continuing to pile it next to me.
Right. Absolutely. Sounds very simplistic, but I tell you, yeah, if you've got less space to clutter, then it trains your brain about what you really need, the possessions that you need and what you need to focus on when you're an entrepreneur. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And I know that, kind of going back a little bit, but you were talking about the pillars of cleaning. And I'd love for you to kind of go into that a little bit to give people a little bit of an idea of how they can put things under these pillars.
I hope that I will be able to answer that. And if I don't, then I might just need a little bit of clarification. But
Sure.
I can start by saying that I've every single person I've ever asked, which is harder for you to deal with, physical clutter or mental clutter. Every single person has said mental clutter. And I firmly believe, like about the Wednesday night story, that that physical clutter contributes to mental clutter, but which comes first? And that's where the chicken and egg syndrome comes in. And where it comes to the 5 pillars, I can give you a real life example. And that could probably help. Is a client of mine, she's been with me for 3 years, and you're thinking, well, why is it taking so long? Why? Because once, with all my clients, what happens is we start on their physical space, because that's what they see. That is what they see as their challenge. And don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed. And so they need someone to just kind of guide them and guide them as to, okay, where do I start? I'm overwhelmed. I've tried it before. I failed miserably. Everybody tells me I won't be able to do it. Well, you need an encouraging person and if that person is not a friend or family member who might, they're well-meaning, but, they might say the wrong thing, kind of thing. Anyway, so this lady, we started in it, her sunroom was so crowded that kind of had to walk in a 6-inch path kind of thing.
No.
Started to declutter that so she and her husband could get into the house with ease. And little bit, I guess maybe about six weeks into the program, she said, I've been thinking about doing a fitness program for a long time. She's in her early 50s. And she said, I am finally going to do this. And she hired the personal trainer and nutritionist and all of this stuff. And I didn't connect to anything. But the more people I have worked with, we'll come back to that. The second that the more I have seen that it unpeels the layers of the onion when you start to
Yeah.
declutter the physical. So say, for example, in this lady, her name's Sarah, in her case, okay, so we're decluttering the health pillar. Then not very long after, she said, my husband said something to me I'm not really sure that I liked, and Sarah's a feisty little thing. And so she told me what it was, and it wasn't anything that bad, but it wasn't anything that good either. And I said, oh, this is interesting. So this is new. And she stopped and she thought about it. She said, you know what? Come to think of it, he's been saying that kind of thing for the 25 years of our marriage. I just never noticed it before. And so that's the heart part. So we covered the health and the heart. And in your habits, as you start to declutter these other things, it's likely that your brain is going to start saying, all right, how can I run my life more easily? What structure and routine can
Yeah.
I put in? And clients, many times into the program, clients will tell me, I'll suggest, hey, you're going to want a routine and a structure. No, I can't do that. I can't do that, especially if they're ADHD and they say no, which I am, by the way. And then they say, well, listen, I was thinking about pre-planning my meals. What do you think about that? Yes, that's a very good idea. I didn't mention that at the beginning. No, I didn't. It's your idea. So decluttering your habits. So now where are we at? We're at health, habits, heart, home we've covered, and then the head. And that is where it can be the most damaging. Now, you as an entrepreneur, I don't want to hog the stage too much, but you as an entrepreneur, you've got a million thoughts going through your head, don't you?
Oh goodness, all the time.
Right. And they can sometimes become overwhelming. I mean, I'm sure we've all been getting ready for our day, brushing our teeth. Did I remember to email that person? Oh my God, I forgot to phone that person. It just
Yeah.
starts to snowball, and then you start to panic. Well, how do you deal with that? I have learned that utilizing my one system can help with that and massively reduce mental clutter. So that is an overview of
Yeah.
that. Answer your question?
You did. And I love that because you touched on all the pieces as well with great examples. And you're so right. Like, we really don't realize all the different clutter in all the spaces and how it actually keeps us from wanting to do other pieces simply because we have too much on the brain that we can't focus on what it is we would like to do, because the brain is constantly thinking of all the other things. And I love that you also touched base on, when your brain is so cluttered and you start thinking about, oh my gosh, I should have done this and I should have done that. So what I have learned, because I've been told by friends that there's a possibility that I have ADD. I was never diagnosed as a kid, but I was always the kid that did her homework while listening to music and watching TV. And that was a normal for me. It's just how I operated. And I still operate that way. I actually have more of an issue when everything is silent around me because my brain catches up. So like, I listen to different music on hertz. So it's just like binaural beats. And what it does for me is it allows one part of my brain to kind of focus, and I keep it low so the brain has to pay attention to it, and then I can hyper focus on whatever it is I need to get done. And I use that sometimes during the day just to get caught up on things and be able to power through it. And then for the times when the brain is bouncing back and forth and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I do this? Oh, I should have called this person. I have a list that is always running that I keep beside me, that when I have space in my schedule, I just mark a couple things off and get it done. And I have an app on my phone. Thank you, Google, one of my favorites, but it's called Tasks. TASKS. And literally, I can type in the task. I can put in a date and time if I need to remind me. And then you click the button that gives you a little check mark. And you can even go back in and look at the task that you've completed. And it syncs up to your email, it syncs up to your calendar and all the things. So I always have it with me across all of my devices. And I am a checklist person. I love marking things off of a checklist. So when I have those random moments or those random thoughts, that is usually my go-to, especially if I'm on the go with my kids or something's going on with school or whatever goes on in that one. It's so easy for me to just pick my phone up real quick and go, okay, put it in there, put a reminder for it to come back to me in a couple of days or that evening, and then I can address it at that point in time. For me, getting it out of my head and putting it on paper allows my brain to stay more focused on the actions in front of me and not on the actions all the way around that I can't necessarily complete that time right at that moment.
Right, right. And that helps you. That app sounds very interesting. Even if you didn't want to go the tech route, you got it down pat there. Get it out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's definitely the biggest one. So now when you're dealing with your clients and you're helping them get some things out of their head, what is something that you like to suggest to them that really helps kind of calm the mind down so that you can start decluttering with them?
That's a good question. And before I get to that, it's important for your audience to know that I believe that physical or mental clutter doesn't accumulate overnight, and it doesn't go away overnight. So before we start to, you're asking about what steps should they take before we start working?
Just some things that kind of get them set up that people can use to, take the first step.
Okay. You kind of put me on the spot here because I work the first step is to make that decision. Okay, I've got a couple of I just had to kind of translate it into my own language.
That's okay.
Is that to make a decision okay, yes, I am finally going to do that. And many say they don't make that decision, and they live in clutter for their lives. We'll stick with physical clutter for the moment. Because as I said before, they're overwhelmed, or they've been told they can't do it, or they've tried and they failed miserably before. So making the decision, but how do you make that decision? It's by having a strong why. What is your end goal? And I'm not the first person to say that, and I won't be the last. But if you just, and I've had people come to me and say, I want to declutter so it'll look nice. Well, that's not that much of a motivation. And doing it so my partner will stop ragging on me, that's a bit of a better motivation. But if you do it because you want to, you somehow have a feeling that it's going to change your life, then now you're talking. You've got a foundation. And I'll give you a perfect analogy. There's a building an apartment building going out right next door to me. And I've been watching them build the foundation with the pouring the cement and all of that. And I thought, what a wonderful analogy for life. You have to have a strong foundation. And you're maybe wondering where I'm going with this, but many of my clients, in fact, with the exception of one person who was 30, all of my clients have been 40 and better. Most in their 50s, 60s. 70% of them have either changed jobs or they've gone into or careers or started some sort of side job. What that says to me is that as they have been decluttering, they're getting rid of the ghosts that have been holding them back. Again,
Yeah.
let's come back to Sarah. She never met a craft she didn't like, and her house showed it, and still does in a way. I mean, now you can at least find the yarn amongst the other hobbies. But one of her favorites has always been stained glass art. Well, decluttering, okay, the end result, she has accepted her first art commission. Someone has given her a commission to do
Oh.
her first custom work. And I said to her just recently, would you get, when you had all the clutter, when we met, would you ever have thought of yourself accepting $800, which is when you're just starting out, that's a lot of money, $800 for something that you have created? And she said, good heavens, no, 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 no way. Just she felt better about herself. The more things that, and this is the same with the other clients, is when they get through that, you look at an item and go, why do I have this? You're getting rid of those ghosts, or the lady that she divorced years ago, but she kept the wedding dress in the back of the closet. That's a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I've heard that scenario a couple of times, and a client just the other day, she said, I like the dress. That's why I keep it. She said, I know that I shouldn't, but I just like the dress and I'm going to repurpose it. Now, I'm not going to argue with her, but I still say that's ghosts inhibiting, say, for example, your relationship sector. But the first thing is just to have an idea of what it is that you want to look like. And if you can't, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, and I
No, you're fine.
Thank you. If not everybody can visualize. I can't. If you say, well, where do you want to be in a year? I'll look at you like, I don't know. Oh, okay. I was worse. I can do that better now. But if you don't, then put it as simple as possible and stay with the physical, because that's what you came to me for. That's what you came, and that's what you have decided, with or without me, to do, is declutter, because you're tired of the mess. You're tired of not being able to find anything. You're tired of searching for and replacing things. Hey, did you know the National Association of Professional Organizers, and this is a reasonable, it's not a recent study, it's maybe 5 years ago, but they reported then, and I suspect it's much more so now, the average North American spends 8,760 hours of their life searching for and replacing things. That's 1 year.
Wow.
And $800 a year just replacing things. That's a lot. This is significant. So there's a practical reason for doing this. So if you're saying, I want to declutter because I want it to look pretty, no, realize that you are going to save time, you're going to save money. And I invite people to, in fact, our steps are always the first step. Okay, well, what do you want to use this room for? We're going to start with, in my one system, and it really is called the one system, is we've chosen one room, and we're saying, okay, what do we want to use this room for? What is its end goal? A spare room, for example, where everything just kind of gets thrown in.
Yep.
All right. What do you want that for? Many people will say a craft room or a hobby room or a
Yeah.
guest bedroom, for example. My jury is still out on this place. I've just moved in. I've lived here 2 months. I'm not sure because I thought it was going to be a spare room. Now it may be a craft room, but I know it has to be decluttered. So I bounce back and forth. But I invite people to, and you will change your mind. Actually, I can give you a quick story about that. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, in 45 seconds, lady, we started her basement, which usually I say, no, don't start in the basement where you've got the 30 years of Christmas decorations. Don't do that to yourself. But it had a lot of her late parents' things in it, and she knew it was ghosts. So she was determined to do this. And I said, okay, what do you want this basement for? She said, well, I'd like to have my wine and beer making stuff over here, and I'd like this space to be for my grandchildren. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
good enough. Good enough. A few months into it, no, the grandchildren didn't really seem to be coming into it anymore. She decided that she was going to have her crafts there. So, and maybe that there would be a kid's space. But do you see how things can change as you
Yeah.
declutter? Your brain changes as well.
Mhm.
And what was right before is not right now. And I see that as being a direct benefit of offshoot, I should say, result of decluttering.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that you talk about letting go of the old ghost, because that is so true when you are decluttering your space. Because, a lot of people talk about what is the term that the young people use? It's going to sound horrible. FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And there's a fear of thinking you may need something later. And I feel like that is a lot of the reason why people hold on to physical items. Well, but maybe, if I have that one party I was thinking about doing like 3 years down the road, I might need that, right? Like there is this fear that if we let go of it, we may need it for something, we may want it for something, somebody else is going to ask for it and we can't give it to them. And it comes back to being in your brain way too much and trying to think way too far ahead when we live in the present moment.
And unless you're living in the Arctic, things are readily purchasable again. Right. You can get rid of the plastic champagne glasses that you bought at the dollar store for $1.50. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you haven't had a drink of alcohol in 5 years. It is okay. But then I someday. It's okay. I have had conversations like this with people.
Yep. I had to do that actually, because, and mine was more of kind of a mindset issue, but it was that fear of missing out or letting go. When I was in my abusive relationship, I was very tied down to the types of clothes that I was allowed to wear and things that I weren't. And I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. That was an absolute no. And so I think about it now, when I first got out of that relationship, when I finally started getting safe in my space, I signed up for a monthly subscription to try different makeups out, and half of them I never used, but I had them and I kept them in the drawer because just in case. And I bought certain clothes. And I always kept them. Well, what if I want to wear it though, just this one time, right? So I had a really hard time with that for a long time. And I think it was because I was so constricted. I went the complete opposite direction. And you do have to learn how to find the balance in between those and look at why you may be thinking you actually need it and see if it's coming from something else that maybe you went through that you're past, but that past is still trying to hold on to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's very interesting. And do you still have this makeup that
I do not. So I actually did the opposite. I sat down one day and I went through absolutely everything. And if I hadn't used it in the last 6 months, it went in a bag. And that's what I did. And I've actually continued that. So about every 6 to 8 months, I go through any makeup that I have, which isn't a lot now, any clothes, shoes, anything like that that has not been worn. And I give it one more chance if I really, really like it. And then if I don't do it, then I get rid of it the following year. And it's the same thing I actually taught my kids when they were younger as well. Because at Christmas time, you get all these toys and all these things. And so we actually made it kind of a game that, okay, if I got all these things and I'm blessed to have all these things now, what toys and what items can I get rid of that we can donate to kids that may not have the ability to have it? And so that's what we started. I started that at like 8 or 9 with my kids, and it just became a routine. So every year at Christmas, 3 or 4 days after Christmas, that's what we did. We went through the room, we brought a bag in, and they were actually okay with getting rid of a lot of things that they hadn't touched, because they knew they were giving it to people that may want it, that didn't have the privilege like they did. And so it started creating that space for them at a younger age to be able to go through things. And so now at 19 and 15, it's easy for me to be like, okay, we need to go through your stuff. And I don't have to like stand over them, because they know it and they just haven't done it in a while. And they'll go through their things and they'll get rid of stuff, and we're right back to where we need to be.
And that habit will serve them all their lives. But if you've never had a parent like you who to show them the way, to show them this is the good way, then they end up being the one with the worst dorm room in university. They end up fast forward, they're married and they're a slob kind of thing. It can, so good for you for starting the process early.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I definitely feel like, and it's funny too, because I'm always the friend that goes over to other people's houses to help them declutter things. Because a lot of us have we have such a sentimental attachment to physical items that it makes it really hard sometimes to get rid of it. Like, you should, but you kind of bouncing, and sometimes it takes that one person to be like, really? Okay, and just put it away so that you don't see it anymore.
Right.
And move it out of the house.
Nice. Yeah, it did. And that funny you mentioned that, because the sentimental items are in the top 3 of what people ask me about. What do I do with? And that can be a real minefield. What do you do? Which ticket stub do you keep? The one with your best friend at the rock concert, or the one with the that you went to Shakespeare with your parents? Which one do you keep? And would you like to hear what my answer to that question is?
Yeah, please.
Your audience would be interested.
Yeah.
Advise people, and I did this to a certain extent when I moved just now, is pretend that you're moving cross country. And a client of mine did that. She actually did move from Washington State to Minnesota. And there was a lot of stuff to go through. And the equivalent of a garage, a 2-car garage full to the rafters. But it was spread everywhere. And she was she had walking problems as well, but she did it. She said to herself, do I want to not only cart this in my U-Haul? You can imagine she got rid of a lot of stuff. So, because we're talking U-Haul here, right? Do I want to drive this across country and unpack it at the other end? And that wasn't my idea. That was Aubrey's. That was her idea. When she said, do I want to do this? No. So I have been coaching other people and myself, do I want to unpack this at the other end and deal with it then? And many times the answer is no. Those leggings that you bought because they were on sale, do I want to, can I envision myself unpacking it at the other end when I haven't worn leggings in 2 years? Kind of thing. It's a spare pair. You can give it to Value Village or Goodwill, or if they're unworn, you can give it to a friend, kind of thing. But if you look at what your end goal is going to be and what you want, you can declutter. That can really, really help you with the sentimental items.
I love that. I really love the why, like really understanding your why behind it. I think that's so smart to go back to. And, we talk about going back to that when you choose to be an entrepreneur and when you feel burnt out or when you feel like you're not making it, is going back to your why and recentering and refocusing the brain from all the crazy clutter that can come in that doesn't mean anything, and go back to the main point. So I love that you talk about that, because I think that that's so important on so many levels, whether it's business, personal, decluttering physically, decluttering your brain, or whatever the case may be. So thank you so much, Kitti, for all of your information and all of your amazing tips and everything that you've shared with us today. Before we wrap up, I always ask one question of my guests, and that is, do you happen to have a quote or a piece of advice you'd like to leave the audience with today?
I do. Your clutter did not accumulate overnight, and it will not go away overnight unless your magic wand is better than mine. Cut yourself some slack and just do it one piece at a time.
I love that. That's so true. I need that magic wand sometimes, though, too.
Yeah, right. Right.
I would love to have that. It's very true, though. I love that so much, because you're right. It doesn't accumulate overnight. It may feel like it, but it doesn't. And it will take time in order to get back to where you want to be. So giving yourself grace. So Kitti, do us all a favor, then tell us, how can everybody find you? Where can they connect with you and be in part of your world?
I'm on social under Kitti Andrews, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I just posted my 850th video on YouTube.
Nice.
I'm doing a series they were Facebook Lives for the first 2 years, and now they're pre-recorded. But anyway, YouTube channel, Declutter the Brain. And they can go to my website at declutterthebrain.com and download my 7 easy steps to conquer your physical and mental clutter. You can book a call there, and we can see how clutter is really affecting you, and what you should or maybe shouldn't do about it.
I love that so much. And to everybody out there, I hope you guys got some amazing tips. And don't forget, we will be putting all that information in the show notes so that you can connect with Kitti as well. So Kitti, thank you one more time for being a guest on the podcast today. And to everybody else that's out there, again, I hope you guys got some amazing takeaways. And remember that it didn't happen overnight, and it won't happen overnight in order for you to get rid of it. So I think that's the biggest piece for me. So please, you guys, be sure to follow Kitti and find her online. And don't forget, until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. So until next time, have a fantastic day. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey.
And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own lotus effect.